I think that many people are presented with this idea of, hey, in the future, you need to be prepared for A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is the further away that these things are, the less likely we are to give them a real vote in our life today. All right, welcome to another episode of Money Therapy. I'm Brandon Chastain, and I'm joined with
Bill McGill.
And we're really looking forward to our conversation today because I was actually just talking to a client about this maybe a week and a half ago. This very, very similar topic.
Oh, yeah? Tell me about it.
So sat down with a client and let's introduce the topic first before we jump in so we don't leave people hanging on. But guys, the whole concept of this conversation today, I've coined as happy now, happy later. I think that many people are presented with this idea of, hey, in the future, you need to be prepared for A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is the further away that these things are, the less likely we are to give them a real vote in our life today. So Brandon preparing for retirement, that's important until something right now becomes important. And then even if they're the same importance, the retirement, Brandon, is less important because it's further away. This idea that I can deal with it later.
Sure.
Right? So the context of the conversation that I had recently was I met with a person who this person's had an incredibly challenging life. But it comes down to this medical issue being discovered, and her prognosis was not good.
Sure.
They didn't expect her to live. And even if she did make it through that, or when she did make it through that, they didn't give her a good outlook on the quality of life that she would receive. It can only be summed up as kind of a miracle that this person is who they are today. Extremely healthy, full of life, and just a wonderful human being. A few years ago, I had the privilege of working with a wonderful couple that had big goals and an incredible work ethic. They made sacrifices and achieved tremendous success and even got to enjoy an early retirement. But tragically, the wife passed away after just 6 months of that retirement life. This experience shook me to the core and led me to reevaluate how I approach financial planning with my clients. I developed an ideology based on 5 pillars of fitness and happiness, and in no particular order, they're pillars of finance, faith, physical and emotional well-being, and mental health. While I'm not a doctor, priest, or psychologist, I believe in the importance of addressing all of these pillars holistically alongside financial fitness. A few months ago, I decided to prioritize my own physical health. I focused on everything from eating well to sleeping better. However, I really struggled to find the right motivation to become a regular at the gym. That's when I reached out to an old friend and fitness professional, Sean Rodman. Sean has been a warfighter in the U.S. Army for 20 years. While serving, he acquired all kinds of fitness certificates and was designated to lead fitness programs for our nation's bravest warriors. Not just the fittest ones heading off to war, but also those injured and needing rehabilitation. When he retired, he started an online fitness company, Parabellum Fitness. He builds workout programs tailored to you, your goals, and even considers your old injuries. He also switches things up from week to week or month to month, so nothing ever gets old. In just a few months, I've experienced better sleep, improved mobility, increased energy, weight loss, and freedom from my old injuries. While I want my clients to achieve incredible financial success, I believe it's all for nothing if you cannot enjoy it. Go check out parabellumfitnessllc.com. That's PARABELLUM FITNESSLLC.com. Follow them on Instagram or TikTok, really any social media platform. Go follow Parabellum Fitness and reach out to Sean. Set up your first month of programming, mention Money Therapy, and get 25% off. Let's not lose sight of all 5 pillars. Together, let's focus on health and happiness and put energy into creating the best possible life we can. After all, we only get one.
Sure.
But in sitting down and talking, there's some things that we're working on together, but the conversation about, retirement planning specifically came up, and they were just not interested in having a conversation about that.
Sure.
And the reason being was, Brandon, I feel like I've already been giving a gift of extra days. I'm not sure if I'll have that many. I want to do everything that I want to do and experience in this life as soon as possible.
Sure.
So it's very her where she's coming from. It's very raw and it's very real, and her perspective is completely different.
Hard to argue with that.
it is, and it's I've been in war. I've had more than a couple near-death experiences, and so I feel like I have a good perspective on kind of the sanctity of life and how precious right now is. Mm-hmm. But in talking with this woman, how as a financial planner am I supposed to argue with this mindset of, hey, I just want to maximize my life today, and if I get down the road, I'll figure that out then. And I did argue it with her, right? Because that's what I do.
Nice. How'd that go?
And we'll get into that, but the whole notion of is we're talking about retirement, but if you're a mom or a dad and your baby was born, I have a good friend that just had a baby less than a week ago. He's also a client of mine, and I can't imagine what he would do if I called him 4 days after this child's been born and be like, hey, I think we should talk about college planning. Undoubtedly he thinks this is important for his kid, but it's not a priority to talk about today.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then on top of all the new bills and expenses of having a newborn baby in the house and just letting kind of the dust settle from that, I want to introduce this idea of saving for college. That's 18 years away.
Right.
On the other hand, it's only 18 years away.
It's not that much time.
It's not. And if you're retired, and so if you're a parent and you're like, well, yeah, these years, my daughter is about to turn 16 in April. It's like, where do these years go?
Yeah.
So fast. But I'm 25, 30 years away from retirement potentially, and it seems like forever.
Yeah.
On one hand, 16 years went by so fast, 15 years have gone by so fast.
Yeah.
Am I giving the same credibility to 25 years as I am,
That's a huge challenge that I find with working with clients is when you yourself as the financial professional are removed from that situation emotionally, it's easy for us to see, with all that we know, it's easy for us to see the urgency. And it's easy for us to go, well, you only have 35 years left. Because we know compound interest and all the numbers and everything.
Right.
And sometimes there is that disconnect with that client where they go, dude, I got 35 years. This is a world away. I just had the kid and, we're enjoying that time of life, or whatever your situation is, a health scare that turns out amazing, but you have that experience of tomorrow's not guaranteed. I find that a huge part of and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you deal with this with your clients, but I feel that a huge part of our job is trying to find that balance of how do I express urgency in a different way, because they're in their own headspace for their life right now today. And we can look down the road that many years and see potential roadblocks, potential problems, all those things. How can I convey to that person that, hey, this is important? And maybe we do need to work on our timing. And 4 days after the person has the baby, don't be talking about 529 plans. But we're always searching for that balance. How do you think, what's your approach to finding that balance when you have to have that conversation?
Yeah, so I think my approach is to just challenge where this is coming from. This idea again, and the phrase that I like is "happy now, happy later."
Yeah.
Implies that you can have both, and I think that people in general across the board, they just have this, like they just live under this scarcity mindset.
So you think that they have to, for instance, I can't have both. I have to give up one.
Yeah.
Like I have to give up my youth for the future.
Right. Or you're just going to ask for me to have less joy now, to have, like, instead of having a lot of joy now and potentially no joy later, you're asking me to just have like an inadequate amount of joy my entire life. And that sounds miserable.
Like you're taking something away from them.
Yeah. And if I can only have this much now for this much later, then I'm never happy.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I try to promote is this idea of, that there is an abundance.
Sure.
And that you can have happiness and joy now,
Yeah.
and happiness and joy later. So we have to understand that we can sometimes create this false narrative, this fallacy that suggests that it has to be this or that.
Yeah.
When in fact we can have both. Like you're allowed to be joyful now and joyful later.
Yeah.
But where that starts is defining what is enough and what are my goals. And we talk about this every episode, guys. Like,
Yeah.
have clear goals, define how much is enough, define what gives you joy,
Yeah.
and then do it.
And I would say, if I can jump in, practice. I just had a conversation with a client the other day who is the exact kind of opposite of what we're talking about. They are so good at saving. Mm-hmm. They love saving, and they're good. They're great investors, and that they add to their stuff every month, and they're super young, and they're planning for the future, and they're doing all this thing. Like selling them the fact that compound interest is an amazing thing is like, I don't even have to do that. Right. They're on track. They're going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
But again, balance. I also felt the need to have the conversation within that conversation to say, hey, here's what's in your savings account right now. I want you to take X amount and plan a cruise or something and go on vacation.
Yeah.
Because at some point, we're going to have to start spending this money for you to enjoy. And enjoy, right? And so I think we've seen both sides of the coin. Somebody thinks that you're taking away all their joy, and then sometimes people don't know how to enjoy when they've done such a good job, and that balance can be tricky.
And I think that's another part of me working with people is, on top of challenging their own mindset and their own limitations that they're putting on this lie that is, if I give up some of my stuff now, then I won't be happy. And, that scarcity mindset. Like, I think the other piece to this is putting it in real world examples, real stories. How old are the clients you were just talking about that are good savers? How old are they roughly?
Middle 20s.
Okay. So mid 20s. So here's a story about encouraging the other side. Like, I would argue that maybe they're sacrificing too much.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to plug the Elements app that we use for financial planning real quick, because we have categories of savers, and we can do a lot with that savings rate vital sign that we measure.
Sure.
But I have clients that are north of 30% savings rate.
Yeah.
And their goals suggest that they don't need to save that much. So I like to tell a story a very true story, a very personal story that really, very young in my career as a financial planner, shaped how I do this job. I started in the industry very, you know, focused on creating healthy habits for individuals, and I didn't look at like the holistic part, like take the holistic view of life.
Yeah.
So always encouraging the next dollar to go to some investment, or always encouraging, challenging. Like, well, if you want to retire at 65, well, why not 64? Like, this is all we have to do different. Met a couple at about 25 to 30 years to the super saver couple that you're talking about.
Sure.
So this is their future potentially. If you and I don't do our job, this couple, the husband had just retired, and the wife was like lagging by about 6 months just because of some like timing issues on some funds and some bonuses and different things like that. So she's going to work about 6 more months. Husband's off work. I have a good relationship with this couple. I had a good relationship with him, and so the husband's bored, trying to figure out what to do with his day now that he's home. So we talked quite a bit, had just some fun times, and the wife's at work. Fast forward 6 months later, she's retired. They're both retired. They retired earlier than they wanted, had more money than they'd ever need. They crushed it. They were saving, 35, 40% of their income,
Wow.
sacrificing everything to reach this retirement goal.
Yeah.
Fast forward 6 more months. So 6 months into wife's retirement, she gets diagnosed with a stage 4 tumor and passes away about 30 days after that.
Oh my gosh.
So she got to enjoy her dream
Yeah.
for all of 6 months and make final arrangements for that last month of her life. And the point is like you can do damage by doing either
Sure.
the wrong way, right? We have people that are not willing to consider future selves. And I have stories of real world clients who are burdens to their children, right? Because they didn't ever find the right balance. They never made future self a priority enough.
Sure.
And they were like, well, I'll just figure it out when I get there. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Now you're incapacitated to a point where you can't figure it out for yourself. And while your kids that you raised are trying to raise their kids, you're also living in their main floor because you can't climb the stairs.
Right.
They're having to take out a HELOC because they got to add a room on the ground level for you to live until you are gone. So the point is balance.
Yeah.
And understanding that if I give too much credence to the right now,
Yeah.
there's positive and negative consequences to that.
Yeah.
And if I give too much credence to the later, there's positive and negative consequences to that. And if you're going through this planning process of identifying the what's enough, the goals, the priorities, what brings me joy, if you're giving, then at least you understand. You've probably gone through the process to be like, hey, I understand the consequences of my decisions today, good
Sure.
and bad, and it's something I'm willing to accept.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that comes to mind for me, listening to your stories, it reminds me of something. I think I listened to it. I'm not sure I read it, but I listened to it over the weekend, and it said, "Fall in love with the process, not the result." So a lot of times, we get to that graduation, or we get that award, or whatever it is that we're actually working towards, and we think that the euphoric feeling that we're going to get from that accomplishment is going to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it really only lasts about 5 minutes. And you kind of find out that, oh man, the really fun times was actually during the process of working towards that goal, seeing that momentum, seeing that progress. So to offer, maybe a solution to some of the people out there listening from a very practical standpoint, to step away from the philosophical for a second, but fall in love with that process. So, for instance, these couples that we've mentioned in our personal experience in trying to advise these people, you know, setting aside something for now, setting aside something for retirement later, or your future, we'll call it,
Yeah.
and then setting aside something to do something fun with and actually enjoy your life. Like I said to that one couple, like take some of this money and blow it on a trip or whatever's important to you guys. Whatever you want to go and have fun with. But put some aside now for your, financial security, you could call it. Put some for your future. And if you can fall in love with that process, I think in my experience, the couples and the people that have the most peace about their personal financial situations are doing they're doing similar things. They're saving, they're investing, they're usually giving, and they're enjoying some of it. And they have a nice balance in there. So fall in love with the process.
Yeah. I think more, again, what this show is about is not encouraging you to change. That's a great result if you're going through some of these concepts or thinking about and you're just reflecting in that is bringing about change. But in understanding the happy now, happy later, if you're the super saver or the person that wants to spend it all today to make the most of the right now, I think just in spending a little bit of time reflecting on your own views and then asking ourselves, like, why do I think I am so weighted in saving for the future, or why do I think I put so much emphasis in maximizing my happiness and joy now? I think if you gave yourself some time to sit in silence and just reflect on that, we can learn a lot about ourselves. And that is I think the most critical piece of money therapy is how much through just asking the questions and hearing the stories and being introduced to these thoughts, can I learn about myself?
Sure.
So that way, because the more I know about myself, the more I can challenge decisions in the future and make sure I'm making the healthiest decision and not just some weird internalized like phobia irrational decision, right?
Sure.
And so when we think about people that have had near death experiences, when we think about people that have had significant sources of trauma, when we think about people that have depression in their life, like the right now is so much more present or more of a priority.
Sure. And we're fine tuned for that.
Because right, because one, if I've had a near death experience, I know how precious life can be.
Sure.
Maybe if I'm in a state of depression or I need the kind of the chemical endorphins that are produced by like maximizing or living the right now, finding the moment to moment joy, just to kind of keep the chemicals inside of me balanced as best as I can.
Sure.
Some of us have like impulse control issues, which is kind of probably a whole nother episode. But the point is some of us are pulled into the present because of stuff we've dealt with in our life. Some of us are super savers, not because we're just masters of finance. We have nothing wrong with us.
Sure.
It's because we've seen our parents lose everything through a 2008 crisis.
Yeah.
They were too leveraged, or they weren't saving enough, and they had to make some hard decisions. And we ended up going from, my childhood dream home to a 2-bedroom apartment where I had to share a bedroom with my brother. I saw my dad work his whole life building something, and then he just lost everything. And so I'm choosing to save everything that I possibly can because it's something I've seen or stories I've heard of close family, of even stuff that has happened to us before. So I think if we take time to ask ourselves, am I truly balanced in this happy now, happy later? Or am I heavily weighted? Am I scared, so I'm over preparing? Can I sit down with you, Bill, and tell you everything that I'm doing? And you're like, Brandon, you're doing too much. Like, you're good. you can actually enjoy a little bit more of your income.
Yeah.
You can save, instead of saving 35%, why don't you just save 25?
Yeah.
You're on track. Now, Bill, like, do I have the ability to hear somebody tell me that?
Yeah.
And if not, why? Right? And so I think we have this is one of those things where if we're not balanced, and most people aren't, most people have, their foot's kind of heavily weighted on one side or the other.
Sure.
And usually we're more heavily weighted in the today because it's closer. There was a cool picture I saw. It was like a goofy little, it was fake advertisement for like a full car-sized rear view mirror.
Oh, wow.
And it was like this rear view mirror that was as big as a car, right?
Okay.
Like, but what you realize is it was just somebody taking a picture out of their windshield, but because the rearview mirror was like a foot away from them and they were taking a picture of the car across the street, they just looked the same size.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? So the car is made much bigger than
Yeah.
a rearview mirror, but because the car was further away,
Yeah.
the mirror seemed bigger. And I think when it comes to life, a lot of times we're like, I understand, Brandon. I understand retirement's important,
Yeah.
but here's what's going on today in my life. So it seems so much bigger.
Yeah.
But you and I both know if we're not planning for these big things in the future,
Yeah.
they're big too. They're just further away, so they might seem small.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's all about that perspective.
I think, we have to ask ourselves in that space of balance, happy now, happy later, can both exist? Absolutely. We have to accept that truth.
Yeah.
Both can exist. I don't care what your circumstances are. You can have joy and be happy now and prepare to have joy and be happy later. The critical piece in that is that we've clearly defined what brings us joy. Mm-hmm. And maybe we have to get really creative as to like how I can find joy. I like spending time with people. Spending time with my friends and family brings me joy. I would love to be able to, buy up a lodge, or rent a lodge, in Colorado and fly my whole family there.
Yeah.
If I did that, that could come at a financial cost heavy enough to derail future Brandon.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of that, I just invite everybody into my house and we all just stay in my home. I open up my house for people to come and spend time with me. On the flip side, if I didn't understand that spending time with people is what brings me joy, I might save and save and save and save, thinking the lavish vacation is important for later, when it's not. I could also save a little bit and, again, just have a bigger home in the future to house more people, more friends and family, right?
Yeah.
So if we define those, we make goals, we can, I think, be balanced and work towards both.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it goes back to, another episode that we did earlier on planning. And I'm thinking about, the process, to go back to, falling in love with the process, maybe a way to find that creativity and find that way of having both. And the way that I tend to do it with clients is try and get them to visualize a goal and then a bucket of money for that goal. And I've talked about that in the future. Not in the future, but in the past. And that could be a good way to visually separate those things out. But you do, to your point, you do have to slow down and ask yourself, do I have different goals here? Or am I just picking one strategy? I'm going to spend everything until the wheels come off and I'm not going to plan for the future. Or am I planning too much for the future? Where is that balance? You have to have that introspective look on yourself in order to take that step back and even develop a process or a plan.
Yeah, I agree. You sound like my fitness coach.
Must be really handsome.
Well, I didn't say you look like him, but I. That's exactly it. Like we have these goals for my health and my fitness, but every day, I just seem to get reminded by him that just enjoy the process. Like right now, like sometimes it's really hard to joyfully walk into the gym.
Yeah.
It's really hard sometimes because I'm tired and I work a lot and I got a lot of responsibility in life and competing tasks. But he's always like, Brandon, just remember there's a lot of people in the world that would love the opportunity to walk into a gym and they just can't walk.
Yeah.
So it gives you perspective, right? And you realize like, like getting to the goal doesn't mean I stop.
Yeah.
And if I can just realize the like capacity I have in life right now to walk into a gym,
Yeah.
and just cherish that in a way to be like, man, like I really actually hope that I have the capacity to do this in 50 years.
And gratefulness to that point, taking time to be grateful helps with that, that scarcity mindset that we were talking about. You can either be, a scarcity mindset or an abundance. And a lot of times the gratefulness, the introspectiveness goes along with the abundance mindset. Like we're talking about finances. So I'm going to have enough to put a little over here, save a little over here, spend a little over here and give over here, or whatever your money goals are. And it's the same thing with fitness.
Yeah.
I get to go to the gym today and my abs are cramping on me and it hurts like,
Kidneys cramping.
my kidneys cramping. Exactly. That's amazing, by the way. But yeah, it's the ability, every day you have that decision to make. And it could be an everyday introspective thing. Some people need that.
Yeah. I also think too, and I think I could wrap up my piece with this is just, a lot of us have to make hard decisions. Sometimes there's struggle in life. Things can be challenging, right? I know so many people that I work with where it's like a challenge to, walk that line to create that balance of now and later. Mm-hmm. Some people are challenged just to like make ends meet enough to pay their bills this month, right?
Sure.
And sometimes you're like, man, like, wouldn't it be nice? You kind of joking around recently about winning the lottery. I did not win the lottery. And
sorry about
nor
that.
I don't play at all. So it'd be impossible to win. But, the conversation is like, what if we did win? What if we won? Because I think what's the lottery is at like $1 billion or something stupid.
Yeah. It's made up and the points don't matter.
But this idea that, the worry goes away. And it's just kind of like, as much as it would be cool to not worry about stuff, what would like the challenge is also part of life.
Yeah.
And I think I might miss that if it was gone. The challenge of being like, hey, I have $10
Yeah.
and I want to buy me and my friend a cup of coffee. Like that's what I want to do today. But I know I need to save for future Brandon so he can buy somebody else coffee. Let's get creative. Okay, well, maybe Starbucks is out of the question. How about this? How about you come over and I'll make a pot of coffee for, 80 cents.
Yeah.
And we can have a lot more coffee and we could have longer conversations in our own, the privacy of our own space. So we could be more raw, more real in our conversations than we could at a Starbucks diner or whatever. And now I still have $9, right? So I could do that all over again with 5 more people and still have $4 to save for future Brandon to do it with somebody else. Yeah. So like, I think the challenge, again, fall in love with the process.
I think
embrace the challenge.
I think the point of the episode at this point is, invite people into your home, man. I mean, invite any strangers, anybody you want.
Hey.
No, but I think that's a really cool point you made is instead of thinking that you have to buy things, right? I have to spend money to be happy.
Let's get creative.
Get creative because, oftentimes, we think of, I don't know, I just think, a lot of some of my, fondest memories are hanging out with people doing really ridiculous things that didn't cost any money.
Right.
But we weren't doing it because they were fun.
Right.
And sitting down with a friend for coffee or playing cards or whatever it is, it's awesome. And so I think reframing it and getting creative is a good.
Yeah. Embrace the challenge. Don't be defeated by it. Fall in love with the process.
Good final message.
Happy now, happy later is achievable.
I agree.
Cool. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Hope you enjoy.
Adios.
We hope you learned something valuable today. We appreciate you including us in your journey towards financial betterment. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes only and not to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions about how it might be uniquely applicable to you, please discuss that with a financial professional, or, of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you about your specific questions, needs, or circumstances. We welcome you to reach out to us via our website, harpethwealthpartners.com, or by emailing Brandon at bmc@harpethwealthpartners.com. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not to be intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back next week.